What's up, everybody? We'll be getting started pretty shortly with our special guest, Rashad Humphrey. Welcome to another edition of Gavin Rashad Presents. We are live, and I'm coming at you with five. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you are blessed and doing safe. We're going to get started in a few minutes. We're waiting on our guest to come in. Director Rashad Humphrey. He is based out of, he's from Los Angeles, California, but I believe he lives in Texas at the moment. We're just waiting for him to drop by. So y'all just, I like when that beat hits. Rashad lives in Houston, Texas now. That's why I thought it was. So we're going to get started in a few minutes. Just hang in tight with us to another edition of Gavin Rashad Presents. Also, please, if you feel free to donate to the channel, the Cash App will be in the ticker at the bottom, as you see right now. Welcome to Gavin Rashad Presents. And I have those links right there for you to donate. That way that beat drops, family. You got some comments you want to leave to our guests? Feel free to join in. and do that, and I'll shoot those questions to Rashad.
Archibald made it right.
Got a few people watching, so all right. Rashad is having a few technical difficulties, but we're gonna still chop it up a little bit, guys. What's up, everybody? Again, welcome to another edition of Gavin Rashad Presents. Here, if you're watching on YouTube channel GBoo2786, I'm also streaming on my other YouTube channel. I'd like for you to subscribe there, Gavin Rashad. That is that's self-entitled. And also on my Facebook page, I welcome everyone that is tuned in watching on this beautiful Sunday. Right now in New Orleans, we are actually hunkered down because we are about to face something unprecedented, which is we have two tropical storms. I believe they're going to be developing into hurricanes right now, and from all predictions, it's looking like it's going to hit Louisiana or Texas. Some maps I've seen it going a little. The one that's in the Gulf now, which I think is it Marco, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're expecting that one to hit New Orleans, at least from the mouth, and head to Texas. And then we got another storm that's coming, Laura, that's they're saying is going to be hitting soon. So all this week we're going to be dealing with storms, and this is the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. Actually, next weekend, oddly enough, the 15th year anniversary. Which you guys can check out the Amazon page. Katrina, Eyes Have Not Seen, Ears Have Not Heard. That was the book that I wrote back in 2008 about the storm, but also the storm afterwards, because Katrina really didn't cause the damage that a lot of people think, although it did to New Orleans and yes, to other places, because that storm actually hit and damaged Mississippi more than it New Orleans. What we had was a both a failure based on both on state, local, and federal government. And I think so you guys check that out. I'll actually have that link in description in a little bit. But our guest has joined us right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Rashad Humphrey.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
What's up?
You straighten my
What's
head
up,
out.
Rashad?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Sorry about that. I had some technical difficulties. I'm actually trying to deal with right now.
That's all right, man. That's okay. Look, do you have anything you want to plug in so everybody can follow you? Or you have a Twitter page or anything?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
You're breaking up a little bit.
I'm breaking up.
Let me actually go to a different space in this room. I'm actually in a hotel room, so
Okay.
yeah. He's still breaking up.
Really? Hold on a second. Can you hear me now?
There you go. I hear you. That's a lot better. All right.
All right, that's better. Welcome everyone. Welcome our guest director, screenwriter, and filmmaker extraordinaire, producer Rashad Humphrey. Rashad actually has a film that's on Amazon Prime. You need to check it out. It's called 400 Will Kill You.
Yes, sir.
Exclamation point and smiley face at the end of that.
Yeah.
I actually thought it's interesting, man. I actually had a chance to peep it before I came on with you. Actually, it was pretty decent film, man.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks a lot. I
If I
appreciate that.
if I could ask you though, because I saw it was made, so it was made in 2015. Uh, I was just curious. How does the filmmaking process go? Because may have some people that are interested in the film industry. I'm actually a writer, and I thought of doing screenwriting. What's the process it takes to develop something like that?
Well, right now I think is a good and bad time to be a filmmaker, and I say that
Yeah.
simultaneously for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a good time because it's so accessible today to be a filmmaker. It's not like the way it was when I first started doing it, where you had to have just a crazy amount of money and you had to have a big studio out there pushing you in order for anybody to see it. Um, Now, because of social media, because of how inexpensive it is for equipment, just about anybody out there, if you really want to be a filmmaker, you can go out there, you can make your own movies. And if you have something that's worth seeing and you have a platform that you developed, you can, develop your own following, and you don't need a studio out there to push what you're doing. Now, the
Right, most
bad thing,
definitely.
now the bad thing about it, I said as good as bad is the fact that there isn't as much money in filmmaking today as it used to be. I mean, of course, if you go the route where you're working for one of the independent, one of the big studios, you're working for one of these huge production companies, or if you are listed with one of these big agencies, you'll get a big contract with them. But if you're an independent filmmaker like myself, you pretty much eat whatever it is that you kill. So there used to be a time you make a movie, you put it into a festival, and especially
Right,
like during the days of VHS, where you put out an independent film like mine, and you can get some distributor to pay you off the back about $500,000. Those days are done. That's not happening any longer. So, but the benefit of it is you can make your own content. You own everything. You can make money off of it for as long as you want. Um, and also you have your own big platform. So there's no telling how much money you can make. You can make $50,000, $100,000, $1 million, depending on how it is that you market your campaign, how big your platform is, independently. So, but
right,
but but to answer your question in terms of the process of it, I think the very first thing, of course, is you have to make sure that the story is very well developed. Um, and whatever it is you're good at. I mean, some people may not be good at writing. Some people are good writers. I know for me, my background was in the performing arts. I was an actor first,
yeah,
and then actor writer first, which one goes hand in hand with the other. I mean, usually most good writers were good actors at one point in their career. They were actors too. So that was the case with Kevin Smith. That was the case with Quentin Tarantino. That was the case with Robert Townsend,
Sylvester
Keenan Ivory
Stallone.
Wayans. Yeah, yes, Stallone. Same thing with him. You know, so one usually goes hand in hand with the other. If you're an actor, you can more than likely you can write a script. You know how scenes are supposed to be put together. So
Right, right,
but if that's not your background's more technical aspect of filmmaking, which is camera work, um, the production design, whatever it is you bring to the table, you know, use that first as your avenue to work from, and then get the people in the areas that you're weak in to complement what you don't know. You know, because you never know
yeah,
everything about filmmaking. You never know everything about, or anything for that matter. So it's always good to bring people around you that actually are experts in those particular areas that you're not good in. So
right.
hope
Yeah,
hope I answered your question, brother. Hope I answered your question.
you did answer it. It's kind of yeah, because I mean, I've noticed in filmmakers like just looking at like I mentioned Stallone's Stallone. I remember watching. I think it was his biography and how he got started. I mean, he was on the streets and down to his last dollars when he wrote Rocky. And
Yeah,
I remember when he wrote Rocky, he actually had to sell his dog, I think, for food or for a typewriter or something like that. And
yeah,
he wrote Rocky in like less than a week after watching the Chuck Muhammad Ali fight.
yeah,
And the studio loved the script, but they didn't want him to play Rocky.
yeah,
And he ended up, it was a take it or leave it deal. He said, "No, you got to cast me," and they allowed it. And from that point on, his career went off.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
you never know. Master P is a guerrilla film, does guerrilla filmmaking. Russ Parr, I know he had
yeah,
stuff that came out, and who's another one? I mean, hell, Dolomite. Even Rudy Ray Moore did
yeah.
his shit.
Exactly. Rudy Ray Moore bring back to us as black people. Because reality of it is a lot of us don't get those kind of opportunities. Some of us do, but we don't. Um, like you said, Rudy Ray Moore, he basically made his whole entire career. He wasn't a filmmaker. He wasn't. I mean, the guy was barely a
Wasn't
comedian.
an actor. Yeah.
But now no disrespect to Rudy Ray Moore because I grew up watching those Dolomite movies. They were very funny. But
Yeah. Did you see the
watching but
Netflix
watch
film?
oh yeah. That film was actually very good. And I think that watching it, there's a lot of learning lessons that you can acquire from seeing his story.
Most definitely.
That that basically this was a guy that took his career into his own hands in order for him to become who he became. So that was one of the things I really liked about that Dolomite movie. I was kind of skeptical when I saw. I'm sorry, I'm actually switching because I'm on my phone. I'm gonna switch to my laptop.
All right, that's okay.
Yeah. So I'm switching to my laptop, but yeah, that was one of the things about that film that I really enjoyed. And Eddie Murphy, I thought, did a really great job playing Dolomite. I mean, it wasn't a
Yeah.
character. Let me turn off this phone right here. We turn this off. Hold on.
Yeah, you got to turn the phone.
Yeah.
Guys, if you're tuning in, this is Brother Rashad Humphrey, director. We're talking about filmmaking. We're also going to be talking about this movie 400 Will Kill You and how it ties into the presidential race. You'll want to hear that story in a second. I'm going to ask him about that. Shout out to the chat, everybody that's there. Anybody got questions, comments? Okay, so I got to add him to the stream. There we go.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
A lot better. It's I have to hold that phone in my hand while I'm trying to talk to you.
Right. It's all good, man.
Yeah.
So but Eddie Murphy was great, but Wesley Snipes even killed it, knocked it out the park too. I thought he was funny as hell.
He was playing D'Urville Martin.
Right.
Because D'Urville Martin was the guy he directed
Dolomite
the first Dolomite movie.
Yeah. But he was also D'Urville Martin. A lot of people may not know this. He was originally Lionel Jefferson in All in the Family, before Mike Evans.
That's right. I forgot about
Right.
that.
Because Archie Bunker, I think what it was that Norman Lear, he adapted All in the Family and Sanford and Son from Britain, because it used to be called Till Death Do Us Part, and Sanford and Son was actually called Steptoe and Son. And the character, the American version of that character, was actually called Archie Justice. And so it was, I'm glad he changed it, because then it became, and the title of the show was Justice for All. But D'Urville Martin was originally Lionel Jefferson, and nothing against D'Urville Martin, but I think Mike Evans, he is Lionel Jefferson, not even that other guy who's got to be I don't think he's a distant cousin. Damon Evans, was it? Yeah, he's the one that nobody cares for, as far as the Jeffersons was concerned.
Yeah.
But that was some interesting history. No disrespect to him. I read that guy's an opera singer too, Damon Evans. But yeah, so yeah, man, it's small world.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it was good seeing Wesley Snipes in something. I hadn't seen him in anything in a while, so it's good to see. It was good to see him working in something like that too, in that particular movie.
Yeah, he'd been he'd been in jail for a while.
Yeah, behind the
federal
tax.
prison.
Yeah,
and I heard that was BS. That's another story. Yeah, it was. But he was originally, since you brought up Wesley, he was basically our first. For me, he was the first black action hero I saw that was backed by a major motion picture studio.
Yeah.
When he did Passenger 57.
I remember that. Yeah.
Right. That was huge.
Always bet on black.
Always. Damn Skippy.
Yeah, I remember that movie, Passenger 57. Yeah, I remember that movie back in the 90s.
They had Rising Sun with Sean Connery. And, It was in Jungle Fever. I remember that one. Yeah,
Yeah,
but then to tame him, they put him in dress in 2-1-Fu. So then they
yeah,
made him a
yeah,
vampire.
yeah. Yeah. Right before he did Blade, he had to
Put on that dress.
yeah, put on that dress. I mean, that was that. I never saw that movie actually. I remember when it came
Me
out.
neither.
You know.
Me neither. I just remember the poster that was there. But did you do you since you're in Hollywood, do you see they've talked about it before, but is there some type of conspiracy in Hollywood to emasculate black men, like putting them on a dress? Because I see there's countless every actor major actor I can think of, maybe with the exception of Denzel Washington or
Mhm.
Morgan Freeman. And Samuel Jackson might be the only one. I think that's because those were some older brothers. I've seen a black man that's been in a dress.
Mhm. Well, you know, well, first let me say this. I'm not actually in Hollywood,
Okay,
anymore. I mean, I work within the film industry, I've never considered myself to be part of the whole Hollywood machine. You know,
right.
um, I mean, I've worked with different people in the industry, but I never considered myself to be a member, a part of the Hollywood machine. That's just um, not part of who
Uh-oh.
I am. But but
Rashad,
but to answer your question,
Rashad, you
but to
breaking
answer
up.
your question, do I think there is an agenda in the entertainment industry to emasculate black men? Absolutely, absolutely there is. But I think that it lies on you whether or not you're willing to actually go along with that. I mean, you have a choice. You don't have to wear a
Yeah,
dress if you don't want to. Um, you can opt out of doing it. I mean, there's other avenues in terms of getting work for yourself. I mean, Dave Chappelle, that's one of the things he did. He didn't wear a dress,
right,
and when he was conflicted about the direction his show was going, he walked away from it. So
right,
we always have a choice. We always have a choice in terms of as men, as black men, in terms of how we intend to um, guide our careers. But do I think just from what I've been seeing and how they pushed a lot of this agenda, a lot of this on black men, I definitely think there is an agenda. I can't deny that whatsoever. I mean, just based off of what I'm seeing, you know.
yeah,
But
yeah. Well, yeah. I just a lot of people have said that, and then you see, it's almost like a rite of passage because I see those guys that do that for so long, like Tyler Perry, for
yeah,
instance, with Medea. And I know Tyler's got his own studio and so forth, but his films, honestly, I since we talked about writing, I don't find that they're great as far as well structured, as far as structure is concerned and how they're even executed. Although I give him his props, he is giving a lot of blacks jobs, from what
absolutely.
I've heard. But other than that, I'm just like, it's just so much. I think there's going to be a Medea in space. Like I could see that happening. I mean, hell, they rode the Ernest train so long. White folks rode it so
Yeah,
long. Why can't Medea? Ernest goes in the army. Ernest saves
yeah,
Christmas.
yeah,
Ernest gets stupid. Yeah, I could see.
yeah,
They had boom Medea's Halloween. So yeah,
yeah.
I
Oh God.
Medea stops a volcano.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I'll say this. I've never been a big fan of I've never been a big fan of Tyler Perry, but I do respect Tyler Perry. And the reason why I respect him is because of the fact that Tyler basically created his own, studio. He has his own studio. He has his own distribution. Well, not the distribution network. That's not true. But he does have his own studio. Like you say, he's employed a whole lot of people. He understood what his base is,
right,
you know, and he's capitalized off of that. So he started off with those crowds, um, the church crowd, and he parlayed that into what he's doing now, with his audience in the movies. So I think that same model can be used for black empowerment in terms of what he did.
right. And it's been
You
done
know?
before. The Oscar Michu is is a prime example.
Yeah,
A black man that worked outside the system, so it can be
yeah,
done. I know that Tariq. A lot of people don't. There's some people who do not respect Tariq Nasheed. I don't know why, but I respect him as a documentary filmmaker and
mhm,
somebody that has made his living outside, as an independent filmmaker
yeah.
and producer. I mean, he does it all. So
He
I
does.
respect that. I respect his hustle. So yeah,
You
but
can't
I
help but
do.
to respect Tariq.
Uh-huh.
You know, I agree. You can't help but to respect him. I mean, I mean, for the fact that he took his audience from his books when he made his Dayton books back in the day, and then he parlayed that into the Hidden Color series. You
Right
know,
now he's got Mink Slide, his music
yeah,
group.
yeah. So he's doing that. I mean, and my thing is that he's not trafficking filth. I mean, he's educating people with what he's doing. So why could you? I mean, why would you have a problem with that?
Right.
I mean, what he did is similar to what Shraddha Ali did back in the early '90s with her books. You know, she didn't make any movies, but you know, the concept was pretty much the same. Is that you find a base of people that like um, the kind of material that you're putting out, and there's a need and a service for it, and you supply their need, and their service for it. So, and with Tariq, he's actually educating people. He's actually putting out things that are empowering Black people, things that we need to know about our own history and where we come from and our struggle and things of that sort. So, um, I respect what Tariq has accomplished, and but there's people out there who are haters, man, or they think that when you
Right.
see Black people doing things that are independent, it's deficient in some sort of way, you know. And I think that that's a mindset that we definitely need to change because, I mean, we can't have absolute power if we're always begging other people to empower us because they'll water down whatever it is we try to put out. And Tariq has been successful at what he's done because he hasn't allowed anyone to water down what he's put out. So I got to respect that.
Most definitely, you got to respect the get hustle, man. I
Mm-hmm.
now, Rashad, what I have up here, I do want to get back to your movie and talking about that, and of
Mm-hmm.
course, DNC. But since we were talking about film industry, I wanted to know what your thoughts are on this topic. It says Disney just ended the 20th Century Fox brand, one of the most storied names in entertainment. 20th Century Fox was, of course, established in 1935. It was acquired recently by the Walt Disney Company in 2019, and they've decided to obviously eliminate that brand. You're talking about the very company that created Star Wars and as well as the Alien franchise and Predator, just a
Yeah.
story franchise. Had you heard about this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I read it. I read it. I believe it was last week when it was announced.
right.
So I remember reading about that. Um, from my understanding, Disney is not buying the entire company; they're just buying the television and film division. Is what they're doing because
Uh-huh.
Fox Sports, Fox News, that's still owned by Rupert Murdoch.
Um,
But
yeah.
the film and television division, all their film and television properties are now owned by Disney. Um, but it's it's evolution of the industry. I mean, big fish eat little fish. In this case, the mouse is eating up the fox. to to put it into terms, So I mean, Disney is a huge company, it's a big conglomerate. They've acquired some of the biggest franchise of all time. They
Well, I mean,
acquired Star
yeah,
Wars. They
Marvel.
Yeah, Marvel. So when I saw that happening, I knew that it'll be a matter of time before 20th Century Fox will fall under. I mean, the big studios, like I said, what's happening now, and the coronavirus has made this even worse. Is that these big studios don't have the power they once had because what the way things were, let's say about 20 years ago, The
Right.
model was that you would have studios like Fox or Disney or Paramount. They would have one big blockbuster movie a year that would come out,
Or
right?
Universal. Yeah.
Or Universal, same thing with them. They would have one
Warner
big
Brothers.
blockbuster movie to come out a year that may cost maybe about like for example with Universal, like Jurassic Park. That would
Yeah.
be their money, their film that they would guarantee would make all the money for that entire year. And then
Right.
they would have middle production films and middle production films that wouldn't cost maybe about 50-60 million dollars, may only cost maybe about 10 million or 15 million, whatever their middle budget was at that time. And the middle budget films, they wouldn't care whether or not those films lost money, because they would get back all of that money with the big film. But now the model's different. So instead of them putting out what they used to do back in the day, it used to be 12 movies a year. Now these studios are only putting out maybe about 6 movies a year or
Mm-hmm.
5 movies a year. And the model is, instead of making a film like in the case of Jurassic Park, that may cost about, well, back then it was $80 million. Now that might be equivalent to about maybe 120 or 150 million, to make $500 million.
Yeah.
Now the model is we're going to make a movie that cost, we're going to make 6 movies that cost you know between 100 to $200 million, and that film is going to make anywhere from half
Right.
a billion to $1 billion globally, and
Right.
that's all we're going to make. They're not going to make any small films anymore, and that's what Disney is doing, because notice Disney, all they do is put out
Well,
brands that people are familiar with: Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar,
right.
and
Well,
and and, and all their
well,
classic
what
stuff.
they're doing. Well, what I've noticed, just to interrupt you just for a second, I've noticed that
Sure.
they're redoing their like when you say classic stuff, they're doing the live action versions of their cartoons. Like the Lion King came out last year,
Mhm.
a live action version of that, and before that it was the Beauty and the Beast, and I think they're trying to do they're doing Mulan now, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken. They did Aladdin, so it's like they're remaking everything, but that's already been done, and it's
yeah,
like no originality in Hollywood. But I think in particular, one of the worst things that Bill Clinton ever signed is that Telecommunications Act of 1996, which
yeah,
just allowed big companies to eat up their competition.
yeah,
It also destroyed black radio and black television, but though that's a different subject. But I kind of see the effects of that happening now, because my understanding is that Fox, what they Fox Sports, Fox News are part of the Fox Corporation and Fox Entertainment as well. That has nothing to do with Disney, but
yeah,
Disney owns basically the entire film catalog of
yeah,
20th Century Fox. So think, there's so basically there's no competition per
yeah,
se between these studios.
yeah. I mean, the only big studios that are still left now is Disney, Universal, and Paramount. I mean, I say with Paramount, probably the only property they have is still keeping them afloat is the Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah,
Um, that's why they keep making them. And it was Transformers. I know they're talking about rebooting the Transformers movies, but I'm not sure if they're going to be able to pull the same numbers they once did, because the last one they came out with didn't do. The last two they came out with didn't do very well. Um, the Bumblebee movie, and then they had one out before that, didn't do very well. And Universal, their bread and butter is still the
Jurassic Park.
that, and also the Fast and Furious movies. You know,
Yeah,
those movies make a lot of money. They tried to do the Monster Universe, didn't work out. Um, so I mean, we may very well see within the years to come that those two studios might get acquired by Disney too.
yeah. Well, Universal, just a little history too with Mike. Since I'm thinking about this, did you know that they were up for sale around 2002, 2003, and Michael Jackson was in talks of trying to buy the catalog for Universal Pictures,
Mm-hmm.
so he would own the rights of uh, E.T. and Jaws. Jurassic Park, all of those franchises, which are worth trillions of dollars, actually.
Really?
Yeah, billions of dollars. And I mean, with I guess with him owning the rights to the Beatles, he would have the Beatles catalog and all that. He would have acquired if he had acquired that, as well as he was also trying to acquire Marvel Comics too in the
Really?
'90s with Stan Lee. Yeah, yeah. A lot of people, if you go online, there's actually pictures of Michael Jackson and Stan Lee talking together, and Stan Lee even mentioned it before, sometime a few years before he passed,
Hmm.
and he talked about that, which was really interesting because a lot of people don't know Mike was about business, man.
Yeah, he
You know,
was. He was. He had that high pitched voice, but don't
he
he
was a
was
gangster in the
he was
boardroom.
ruthless when it came to business.
Yeah, he cared about the children, but when it came to his money, hell with all you little bastards.
Yeah, he was ruthless when he
You
came to
better have my
business.
money, bitch. You better have my money, Mitch. And, you ain't gonna buy my dick today. You don't gonna buy my dick, and you don't.
I remember I remember an interview with Paul where Paul McCartney Mike was talking about Paul McCartney. Mike would do things like he would because he used that his high pitched voice and his androgynous appearance to disarm a lot of people is what he
Right,
did. Like he said that he spoke to Paul McCartney one time about
the Beatles
acquiring
catalog. Yeah,
catalogs and the masters and things like that of other artists.
right.
And he knew he didn't tell him what he was going to do, but he just wanted the information. So
Well, yeah. Well, actually, Paul McCartney even did say. Michael said, maybe one day I'll be your boss. He's like,
yeah,
quit joking, Michael.
he
Yeah,
thought he was joking.
yeah, yeah. Of course, Paul jokes.
He thought he was joking. Then before he knew it.
But I
Michael
mean, it was
Jackson bought the
yeah,
Beatles catalog right under his nose.
right. But I mean, he didn't own that. That was owned by another. That was owned by the ATV catalog. That was owned by a
Yeah,
different company. And my understanding, Paul McCartney didn't want to buy it because he didn't feel he should pay for something that he created. And it wasn't just the Beatles songs; it was a whole catalog of songs. Sly and the Family Stone, Little Richard.
yeah,
Those
yeah,
artists were in there, and you know, the Cornelius Brothers and Sister Rose, those artists. And so Michael bought all of that, and he ended
yeah,
up giving Little Richard back back his catalog. He gave Sly Stone, I think, $1 million in back royalties because
yeah,
Sly was homeless. I think Sly
yeah.
still been struggling, but he was real conscious about his stuff, man. So. I mean, and Paul McCartney was pissed off that he bought it, but shit, if he wanted it, he should have just bought it.
It's
It's business.
business.
It's
It's
business.
business. And
As much as they have, and as much as they stole it from black people, he shouldn't be complaining about that.
yeah, absolutely. But it's business. I mean, Mike did a very philanthropic thing when he I do remember that when he gave back Little Richard all of the the the
Right,
publishing rights back to him for his music. That was a
right.
beautiful thing. I remember that. You know, I'm not mistaken. Did he do the same thing for Chuck Berry? I think he did as well. Michael Jackson.
Well, I don't know
But but
about
but
Chuck
but but, but,
Berry.
but I'm not sure about that. I'm
Well,
not
I
sure.
don't think he did that with Chuck Berry. I'm not aware of that. What I know is that Chuck Berry had sued different. He had sued. I know he sued the Beach Boys back in the
Yeah,
'80s for Surfing USA
yeah,
because Surfing USA was a copy of Sweet 16.
yeah,
They stole the music to that.
yeah,
And I'm aware of that. I'm aware he did give back monies to Little Richard and Sly Stone. That I'm
yeah,
aware of. And Little
yeah,
Richard even talked about. It's funny you mentioned that about the high pitched voice and appearance, like to make himself ambiguous. Uh, Little Richard even talked about that on David Letterman when he said that the white record owners, the companies would like when he would come out, with his makeup and his nails done and so forth because he was effeminate, and so the white girls wouldn't. They felt he wouldn't attract the white girls like that because he was emasculated.
yeah,
He talked about that back in the back then. And so, a lot of that stuff goes on. But this is actually, you could read it on Wikipedia for everybody that wants to check it out about the Sony ATV catalog. I even saw that Berry Gordy was going to sell the catalog, the Motown catalog, to Michael. I
Really?
wish he did. Yeah, I wish he did. Remember, Motown is not owned by blacks anymore, just like
Yeah.
Soul Train and
BET.
Def Jam, all of that is not owned by black people. That's owned by whites now.
Yeah. Yeah.
BT, that's owned under Viacom CBS, and
Yeah.
again, that monopoly, Viacom CBS owns all of own practically half your television networks, just about like that you could
Mhm.
think of: Comedy Central, MTV, MTV2, BET, VH1, Nickelodeon. They're all part of that. And speaking of Nickelodeon, I want to get into your movie, but it seems like there's a good way to segue into things.
Okay.
Nick Cannon, there's talks about him, of course. That he was fired uh,
Yeah.
from Wild 'N Out, and now they're talking about Viacom CBS is saying they're interested in getting back with him. Uh, what do you think of what happened with him with regards to all of this? Because at first he stands strong, saying he's going to sue Viacom CBS because Wild 'N Out is $1 billion corporation and he doesn't own it. He apologizes for anti-Semitic remarks that he makes that I never even heard in the interview with Professor Griff. And let's not forget, I think being a hypocrite as well, white mainstream media interviews racist people we would call racist or that are
Yeah.
racist by definition all the time, and they never have any of their guests apologize or renounce their leaders.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So because they wanted him to renounce Minister Farrakhan. So I wanted to know what you think of what happened with him and this talk about by him coming back to Viacom CBS.
Well, I think it's unfortunate, but this is the problem. Like I said, when you don't have ownership, is because Nick Cannon spent, and I saw the same problem with Snoop Dogg. When Snoop Dogg came back and he apologized for Gayle King about what he said about Gayle King, and Snoop said he claims that his mother asked him to apologize, but I think honestly that somebody probably has a lot more influence financially over what they're doing, yanked their
Right,
chain and told them to apologize. Otherwise, you may lose this deal, this TV show. And
right,
this is I like Snoop Dogg. I like Nick Cannon. I mean, in fact, um, Nick Cannon was I wanted him to play the cop that's in my movie. He was the first person I had in mind. I was trying to make that happen. It didn't happen, obviously, but because my family actually knows his family. Um,
oh really?
yeah, yeah. My aunt is acquainted with his grandfather,
Right.
and I've met his father a few times, but I've never actually met Nick, but I've met his dad. I've met his grandfather once. Um, so we know some of the same people, but it never happened. But like I said, I just think that this is part of the issue when you don't have control and when the very people that built your career, you don't have independence. They built your career. They also have the power to destroy your career if you decide to step out of line. This is why Malcolm X said years ago that we can't have a community led by entertainers. You
Absolutely.
know, because
They're not leaders.
well for a number of reasons. Number one, because most entertainers are not they're not academically equipped to talk about a lot of the things that the black community has to deal with. That's the first reason. They don't know enough. I'm not
Yeah,
saying that Nick Cannon is dumb. I'm not saying that Snoop Dogg is dumb. But I'm just saying, just in general, you know, they're not they don't know enough. That's the first problem. Most of them don't. And then the second thing is the fact that we didn't build them, so um, white, the white media built them, and they can destroy them anytime they want. and that's what Nick Cannon is dealing with. Because Nick, because I heard the interview that Nick did with Grip. I remember when it first aired on YouTube, and I listened to it. I didn't hear anything in it that was quote unquote anti-Semitic. All he did was basically tell the truth, and he simply said that him and Griff were talking. He simply said that the original Jews were black, is what he said.
Right.
Now, whether you believe that or not, that's up to you. But I will say this: that I mean, there's been documentation. There's been um, all sorts of people who have written information based on this topic. I know that people like Josephine Yakinen wrote "We the Black Jews." You also have Christianity Before Christ, written by John Jackson. There's been other books that have been written on this issue. So for someone to sit up and say that it's a lie, it's a myth, that there isn't any kind of information to back that up, that's simply not true. That's simply not true. Now, there's some white Jewish scholars who want to argue with Nick Cannon. That's perfectly fine. They believe that's not true. That's perfectly fine. I don't think that because Nick had that particular perspective that he should be fired because of that. You
Right.
know, I mean, like you said,
I mean, should Barbara Walters have been fired for interviewing Farrakhan or Mike Wallace? And these are Jews.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My my thing with Nick Cannon too, when I think about this though, Rashad, is that what you say is correct about entertainers being leaders. Even Malcolm X has said that entertainers have their place. They should be financiers of the movement, like Nat King Cole was, or Sammy Davis Jr. and others. They gave monies to Dr. King, and they also used their clout to when they were in speaking with the president. Like Nat King Cole had a chance to speak with JFK and Eisenhower about race relations.
yeah,
They could do things like that. But their job, same thing, even with Bill Cosby, giving monies to HBCUs and so forth, that was great that they did all of those things. But when you have something like, I think Nick Cannon, what he proves is that black people who are in that Hollywood regime are not, who are in Hollywood and so forth, they're controlled. Sad.
exactly.
He was controlled because he took his Instagram, he took those videos down that he had. All of
Yeah,
his, it wasn't just the Griff video, it was the interviews with Riza Islam and
I
uh
saw that.
yeah, it was the ones with Muhammad. I think his Tariq Nasheed video went down. The
Yeah,
other thing too is that when you talk about, I think the actual quote he was talking about was how black people can't be anti-Jewish because we were the original Semites, which if you read the Bible, from the beginning, God created, if you believe in it, God created Adam and Eve. He called them out of the Garden of Eden. Well, that was in the Horn of Africa. That was in
yeah,
Eastern Africa, and it stretched all the way through what we call the Middle East and into Asia. They described the rivers. So uh, what he was saying is not, wasn't hate speech. It was just based in truth, and people sometimes can't accept that because they don't want us to know who we truly are, and also they don't like black men who are intelligent. And I think Nick Cannon got too woke for him, and now he's realizing he doesn't want to lose his job, his money, because he was
yeah.
about to, he was on that show, The Masked Singer. I mean, what if anything? Nick Cannon should have been fired for making underclassmen. Should be fired for having unfunny, stand-up specials. I don't think, Nick is not someone
Oh,
I've always thought of as being funny, but I respect, I guess, the hustle and
yeah,
what he's put in. He's done more than I can in this industry. I have in this industry, so I respect that. But I know what Hollywood is like, and I haven't even been in Hollywood. Just looking at that,
yeah.
it shows that there is no black Hollywood.
There really isn't. I mean, there really, really isn't. It's a myth. Doesn't exist. Because, like you said, I mean, it's controlled opposition. It's all it is. You still, with a lot of these people, you still got to get your financier. You still got to go to your financiers, and in order to make these movies. And a lot of times, it's from the same people that we're fighting. So,
Yeah,
I mean, there really is no Black Hollywood. That it doesn't really exist. What's his name told me that. Well, he didn't tell me. He said that in an interview years ago. Fred Williamson said that in an interview years ago. It doesn't really exist. There is no really any Black Hollywood. It's just a bunch of black people that are given oppositions from from other groups of people.
Sure.
Is what he basically said. But yeah, I mean that's what that simply shows is that when you don't when you know the people that created you um, can also be the ones that
It'll
that can
break
break
you.
you. And they did that when they can. I believe they did that with Snoop Dogg as well. I believe they did that with him. That's why he apologized, and I
Right.
mean, I wish these
I
guys
in
wouldn't
terms of,
apologize
yeah,
because here's I just want to get this point real quick. Here's the thing. I really wish that he didn't apologize. Nick Cannon didn't apologize because what both of those brothers don't understand is that there's a base that will support them if they
most
support us.
right.
You follow me? They may not be able to make they may not be able to make the kind of money they could make working with
MTV
mainstream
fire
Hollywood,
trucks. Yes, yeah.
but they'll still be eating, they'll still be living well,
Oh,
because he's still Nick Cannon, he's still Snoop Dogg. So regardless of the money they take away from you, they can't take away your name. They can't
right,
take away your name. And I wish that many of these entertainers, the prominent ones like that, they understand that you have to have more faith in your people. If you have faith in your people will have faith in you, especially now. If you stand up for us, I mean, if Snoop Dogg came out after he said what he said about Gayle King when she was trying to label Kobe Bryant a rapist, when the man his birthday's today, by the way,
right.
when he was a rape, when him being a rapist and death after a man just died and she's trying to get Lisa
And his
Leslie to
daughter.
co-sign all that. If he would have stood by what he said, I guarantee you, Snoop Dogg would have came out with a record today independently. It will go platinum.
Yeah.
Black folks would buy it because a lot of us will remember. I would buy his record because a lot of us will remember that you stood up for us. You stood up for black men, and you stood up for black society, and you didn't let one of their collaborators desecrate his memory in death. The same thing with Nick Cannon. If Nick Cannon came out with another movie after if he stood strong, he may not make 20, 30, 40 million. I mean 20 or $10 million, but he'll still be able to eat well. You know, and that's what I'm saying. That a lot of these guys need to have more faith in their base, because if they support us, we'll support them. So anyway, I'm sorry about that. I mean to get long winded. Hello, Gavin, you still there?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I had my microphone on mute for a second.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
it's okay.
No, what I was saying is that with Kobe Bryant, yeah, the issue was that Gail was trying to, you hit it on the head. She had labeled this man a rapist
Yeah,
in death, or tried to imply it in death. And even Minister Farrakhan said, well, I wouldn't have called her a bitch like Snoop did, but Gail also has to apologize because she initiated the wrong, which she never apologized for. She tried
yeah,
to say, I'm sorry you felt that way. She never apologized for her to imply that.
yeah,
And to do that right after he died, and then on top of that, after his, not just when he died, but also his daughter.
yeah,
His daughter was killed in that as well. So
yeah.
and
Terrible.
she wasn't the only, and I saw these white, I'm gonna say it. These feminist bitches like Evan Rachel Wood
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
Abigail Disney labeling him a racist, you know, and shout out to Kyla Pratt because from all of she was on that show One on One.
Hmm.
She called Evan Rachel Wood out
Yeah,
bad for that. Shout out
good.
to her. They worked together, I think, on HBO. She said you were wrong for that, and it's a woman that fucked Marilyn Manson, so she should shut up. You got no
Yeah.
business talking about Kobe Bryant.
Well, that's how they feel. I mean, they feel that way, and
But
and
yeah,
and
I'm ranting on that one too. And another
you
thing,
know, yeah,
yeah, Right,
and that
and that's
comedian, the
also
one
Viacom CBS too.
yeah, yeah, that
That comedian
comedian.
you talk.
What was his name? I can't remember his name. He's a Jewish
Uh,
comedian.
I'm glad I
Um,
can't remember it either. It must have. He wasn't that funny. Nobody. Let's not bring him up. I know who you're talking about because
yeah,
a
I
lot
can't
of
remember
people
his
just
name.
talked about it, but
I never heard of the guy.
I had heard of being. I had some people obviously knew him. I think Godfrey knew the guy, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but you know, I think nobody was really feeling that because it wasn't funny.
No, it
It
wasn't
wasn't.
funny.
It wasn't funny. But he's one of those shock jock. It's one of those shock comedians.
Hmm.
That they say something so egregious that they'll think people will laugh, but nobody was laughing at it. It wasn't funny to you. So
Yeah, it wasn't funny. I didn't find it funny at all. Like when I saw the whole entire thing, I was like, oh my god, it was pretty horrific. Um, but yeah, I remember that. I remember him. But yeah, yeah. But you understand my point though. It's just that
right,
if they would have stood, they would have stood where they stand, stood their ground. Um, black folks would support them, and they wouldn't have to have or need the assistance of that machine pushing them. But many of these comedians don't have enough faith in their own people to think that we would support them like that. You know?
most definitely. Yeah, and what's interesting too, yeah, that's I think about that too. Susan Rice was said, "I got a fucking army for Snoop Dogg for calling Gayle King that," and she's trying to be vice president of the United States. And we're going to be getting into that now. I
Yeah.
guess it's a good time to segue because you said your movie, and I have it. I'm going to put the screen back up so everybody could see. This is where you can check out Rashad's new. Rashad, I shouldn't say new, but you could check out Rashad's movie 400 Will Kill You on Amazon Prime. That's it right there. And Rashad had something very interesting to say about this 2020 election. We're going to get right into it. So Kamala Harris has been into picked as the vice presidential candidate for the Democratic Party with under Joe Biden, and the DNC was this week as well. It was completed. Rashad had something very interesting he said on Facebook, which is why I wanted to bring him on here. He was letting people know how Kamala Harris played a role in this movie. I guess him in writing this story. So, Rashad, without further ado, why don't you tell everybody what you meant by that and how Kamala
Well,
Harris?
if one of the things that I pointed out, and I've been pointing this out actually for a while, not just about Kamala Harris, but the Democratic Party, period. But let me first start with the film, not to deviate from that. 400 Will Kill You is a story that deals with the Great Recession and the um, the crash of the real estate market back in 2008.
Yeah,
You know, so when I did my research, when I wrote the script, back in I believe it was 2009, 2010. It was around that time when I wrote the script, and I came up with the idea to do it. Um, I was reading just different news articles about different people that were involved in the scam,
mm,
and the most scam is a man by the name of God. His name just escaped me right now. His name is uh, Kavanaugh. He's actually Secretary of Treasury right now. Is Kavanaugh? See, make sure I have his name correct. um,
United States Secretary of the Treasury is Stephen Munchin.
I'm sorry, Stephen Munchin. Excuse me, Stephen Munchin. Thank you, Stephen Munchin. Not Kavanaugh. Stephen Munchin. Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh is a Supreme
Yeah.
Court justice.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Exactly. Excuse me.
yeah,
So anyway, but Steve Mnuchin is how you pronounce his name. Yeah, Steve Mnuchin. Steve Mnuchin. Steve Mnuchin, current Secretary of Treasury, he was involved in a scandal where with One West Bank in California, where he stole allegedly 80,000 houses that he foreclosed on illegally. Steve Mnuchin did this, and he was not prosecuted when the Attorney General's office came to prosecute him in court. He wasn't prosecuted after he gave, depending on what report that you read, because I've seen some reports where it was 2,000, I've seen others where it was 10, but he gave $2,000 to $10,000 to Kamala Harris's campaign. Now, this guy, today as he was back then, Steve Mnuchin, he was a career, Republican, and the only Democrat that he actually gave any money to in terms of their political campaign was Kamala Harris. And after he gave money to Kamala Harris's campaign, his charges went away. He wasn't prosecuted. Now, Kamala claims that she says that they looked into the case and there wasn't enough evidence, blah, 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 to investigate him. And in fact, she was praised during the Democratic convention for the role she played in helping all these people during the Great Recession. But the reality of it is, one of the biggest perpetrators of defrauding all these thousands of people, out of their homes, where his bank, which he was the CEO of, One West Bank, acquired, hundreds of millions of dollars for actually doing that. She let him go. This guy actually, Steve Mnuchin, is actually the basis of my main character, Richard Warren. If you ever watched the movie,
right?
He's the basis of that. Loosely based off. It's not a biopic. He's loosely based off of it. But that was the first. But that was a story that that I actually looked at, because his story was one of the biggest. And it didn't occur to me years later, when I was doing more research about Kamala Harris recently, and I was looking at some of the scandals. There's a bunch of scandals she's been involved in. That's just one of many. But when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute. I've seen this name somewhere before, Steve Mnuchin. I've seen this name before. And then I read the stuff. Oh, yeah, that's the guy that Richard Warren is based that I structured this guy after, is this story. So my movie 400 Will Kill You is loosely based off of what Steve Mnuchin did. This guy that ripped off estimate of 80,000 homes within California. Most of, disproportionately, most of them are Black, which is one of the things that's not talked about, because most of the people that were affected by this and defrauded by banks like One West and other banks, were Black people that were given these toxic mortgages, and the one of the biggest perpetrators in the country of this, at least the biggest one in California, Kamala Harris, let him go.
Yeah.
She let him go. So she didn't play that game when it came to us, when it came to locking up, single mothers with their truancy policies. But when it came to Steve Mnuchin, he got a pass, and she, they, it looks bad that after he contributed to her campaign, they drop all the charges. You know what I mean?
Right.
That looks bad. It looks like he bribed her with not even a lot of money. I mean, $2,000. I got more money in my account, right now than that $2,000. That's it.
Right.
So basically, if you go out there and commit a crime, well, I'm not going to say that. Allegedly, I'm not going to say that, but it seems like if you go out there and commit a crime and you got $2,000, you can get Kamala Harris to drop the charges for you. Because Steve Mnuchin, that's what it seems like he did.
Right. It's like she basically took a bribe, allegedly.
Yeah. But it doesn't look good that after he contributed to her campaign, and again, he was a staunch Republican then as he is today.
Right.
And now the guy is a Secretary of Treasury.
And she voted against his confirmation as Treasury Secretary too.
Treasury Secretary, excuse me,
Yeah.
Treasury Secretary. He's a Treasury Secretary, And it just looks bad. You know what I mean? It looks bad that you have someone that is running for vice president, and they're trying to craft her to us like that. This is the person who's for us, and these are the kind of scandals among many that she's involved in or has been involved in that's been damaging to Black people.
Yeah. Well, I've seen, yeah, well, I saw your post. That's why I wanted to actually bring you on. And I was just blown away by the amount of people that were throwing. I wasn't surprised, but the people that were throwing support to her so quickly. It's like we have historical amnesia. We forget how bad somebody can do something wrong to you, but the minute they throw you a bag of biscuits, you running over to them like a lapdog.
Exactly.
And her record as a prosecutor, a lot of people think that, well, you just don't like her because she's a woman. Don't insult me with that. No, it's
Mm-hmm.
because her record sucks.
Yeah.
Any more than if Biden would have done better to me if he had picked at least Stacey. I can't think. Stacey
Abrams.
Abrams. Yeah, just because she, although I still think they would have lost, at least she doesn't have a record that they could pick up against because she's fairly new.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris, let's not forget, during even the Democratic debates, she called Joe Biden out because of his stance on school busing and racial
Yeah.
segregation. And also, she said she believed the women who accused him of sexually assaulting her. Sexually assaulting them,
I
excuse
remember
me.
that. I
Yeah,
remember.
so she said, I believe them. So I'm wondering when it comes up in the debate or when it comes up in the press, what are they going to say? What is she going to have an answer? What's she going to answer to when that comes out? Nobody's thinking about that. They care about her sorority, the fact that she went to Howard, and she's not a foundational Black American.
She
That's
is.
She's not. That's She grew up. You noticed in that at that DNC, she never mentioned her father,
Yeah.
a Jamaican father. Which, yeah, and people, I had Negroes that were mad at me because I had pointed that out. Like, so what? So what? You get well. Talk about something on your own damn post. This is my post. Yeah,
I
I'm bothered because I see
I
it.
agree with what you're saying, brother.
Yeah, because I see it. She's speaking about it from an immigrant standpoint. Obama did the same thing.
Yeah.
They call her Obama 2.0, which honestly tells me we're not going to get any tangibles from her. She said she's not going to do it.
Exactly.
So why should we keep throwing our votes to these people if they're going to keep disrespecting us?
And that's the point that I was putting out there is that we shouldn't. I mean, the the best analogy I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and Jesse Ventura said something similar years ago when he was governor of, actually after he left being governor of Minnesota. But what he said was brilliant. He said that politics, because he was a pro wrestler,
Yeah,
but he said that
I remember
politics
the
is no different than pro wrestling. And he talked about the fact that you have baby faces, you have heels, just like which is wrestling jargon for good guys and bad guys.
right.
But at the end of the day, they all work for the same company. And in my estimation, that company is white supremacy. And that's what confuses Black people, I think, is that we sit up and we look at the Republicans. Their rhetoric is a lot more brash. Their policies tend to promote traditional American white supremacy, I think, more than
Right.
the Democrats, does. White male patriarchy, which is one of the reasons why a lot of these hardcore white supremacists gravitate to Trump the way they do. Um, but it's still white supremacy. The Democrats, on the other hand, just practice what they've been doing for the past 60 years, a policy of benign neglect, where they're going to do what's advantageous for everybody else except for us, and in fact, do things to attack us on the low. And that's what a lot of Black people don't particularly understand. Like, I mean, the fact that Mnuchin, and that was one of the things I pointed out about Kamala Harris. The fact that Steve Mnuchin and Kamala Harris have this connection, that proves exactly what I'm talking about. That it's all a big show. They all work for the same team. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, most
They
definitely.
they all work for the same team. In fact, I mean, we could even take it a step further if you want to use a wrestling analogy. Wrestlers, what do? You have sometimes a heel who will turn into a babyface. Macho Man Randy Savage was a bad guy at one point, and then he became a good guy.
Yeah.
Roddy Piper did that. I'm going old school, but
Hulk
Roddy Piper
Hogan
did that. Hulk Hogan, yeah, he did that with the NWO. He did that,
with the NWO.
So yeah,
He actually started out in the business as a heel.
yeah,
When he
yeah,
first came into the WWF, and he was under Freddie Blassie, he was a heel.
yeah,
He didn't blow up until after he did Rocky 3, and then
yeah,
that's when McMahon wanted to make him the face of the company.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But my
McMahon
point is
2,
like
yeah.
you compare that to some of the people in the Democrat Republican Party, like for instance
Right,
Elizabeth Warren, Mike Bloomberg, even Hillary Clinton. They all were Republicans at one point. A lot of people don't know this about them. Elizabeth Warren started her career off as a Republican. Mike
yeah.
Bloomberg did the same thing. Hillary
Trump is
Clinton was what did that. She was a Goldwater girl. She actually helped Barry Goldwater, which I believe she was
right.
in college.
Yeah, that's
Um,
absolutely right.
yeah, and then she actually helped out Richard Nixon when he ran, for office in
Trump
1972,
Trump is actually an independent. A lot of people don't realize that. He was
and he
also a
donated to
Democrat.
and he donated to Clinton's administration,
Yeah,
to his election back in the 90s. So that I mean that's the thing that people don't really understand is that is that one of the problems with us as black folks, a lot of us are, and I think that enough of us are starting to now do things that are advantageous to us and only us, which is what we should be doing,
right,
and not be so confused about the party, not be so confused or committed to who the party is. Both of these people advocate white supremacy. That's the point. And instead of us being so concerned with being affiliated with the party, we need to make them do things that are advantageous exclusively to us. You know, is what our agenda should be. That's what that's what our agenda should be. That's what Dr. Claude Anderson has talked about for 50 years, 40 years now or so. Is that black people need to get into the habit of doing what is in our political best interest and not be so concerned about the political theater that we need to be a part of the Democrat or Republican. We should have no commitment to any political party whatsoever, none. You know, it's all
right.
about
Yeah,
quid pro pro.
right. It's about doing what's in my best interest. What are you going to do for my vote? Uh, you
Exactly.
know, I had someone asking me, so are you suggesting, well, not to vote? We got to put Trump in because we're going to lose the White House. It's like we never had the White House to begin with.
Exactly.
We never had it to begin with. I said you need to focus if you're going to vote, vote locally because you're more impacted by that. You're impacted by who the mayor is. You're impacted who's on city council. You're also more impacted actually by the district attorney's office
Yeah.
because those guys are the ones that determine whether they're going to proceed with a criminal case or not against you if they have anything. Uh,
Exactly.
you know, I'm interviewing actually the candidate for the New Orleans DA tomorrow on this platform, brother Arthur Hunter. So y'all check that out if you are available. That'll be tomorrow afternoon. And but yeah, but that's the main way you handle that. And the other thing aspect of it, like Dr. Claude Anderson says, is to focus on your economy, building your
Exactly.
own independent economy. I you I don't know how it is in Houston, but here in New Orleans, and I think I could find, and I'm pretty sure it's everywhere in every major city. You're going to find an area where it's supposed to be the poorest community, where it's populated mostly by Black Americans, and the only buildings that look good are the churches. The churches look better than the neighborhoods, and that's not, that's a fact. That's a reality. Like I see now, it's no hate against the pastors and so forth, but I think a lot of them could even do great things with the communities if they chose to. I think that we have some black banks. If there are any black banks, they need to start when black people want to start their own companies. I think they need to relax on the restrictions on some of the terms of their loan limits.
Yeah,
To help them out, to give them a break. That's the only way this stuff is going to work, man.
absolutely. No, I agree. I agree. I mean, I absolutely agree. So I do think that a lot of us are starting to now break ourselves out of that mold. Um, Shiraz Ali spoke about this in her book. Are you a slave? Um, because I got finished reading it about a week ago, and what we're talking about right now was one of the same things she speaks of is the fact that a slave does what's in the interest of everybody else except for themselves and their family.
Right.
That's part of the definition of a slave. And black people, since we were brought here, that's been ingrained in us that we're supposed to do what's in the interest of other people and not in the interest of ourselves. We're supposed to sit up and um, put up respect these politicians, and you have a lot of these black politicians, and it's not anything new. It's similar to what was done with the slave drivers on the plantation, where whenever black people are about to get involved in a full blown insurrection, they want to sit up and bring up a prominent person who speaks well, who the slave master may have. I mean, it used to be the black preacher. That was usually what it was. Now it's the rapper. The rappers are the ones they put in those positions now. It seems like, but they get up and they talk and try to tell the rest of us to be quiet, that we shouldn't
Yeah.
speak. You know, is what they do, and and now it's getting to the point. I think that a lot of us are divorcing ourselves and we're debriefing ourselves from psychologically, at least, not physically. We've already done that, but psychologically, our slave identity as black people, you know, and a lot of us are still behaving like slaves. So when I see a lot of these black folks out here still kicking for the Democratic Party, they're saying things like a vote for Trump is, a vote for not, a vote for independent or not voting at all is a vote for Trump. You know, which is the Democratic talking point. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But
No.
okay, you know, they're still operating on the frequency of behaving like a slave, and a lot of us are divorcing ourselves from that identity and doing what's in the best interest of ourselves and our group and our families first, which what we should be doing.
Right. What did you think briefly on the DNC convention, if you had a chance to look at it?
I didn't watch all of it. I saw some of it. I couldn't. I mean, it was painful to watch. It was hard to
Right.
watch for me personally, but I did watch some of it. I watched some of it. I saw Cory Booker talking. I saw Kamala Harris speaking. I saw Joe Biden. Um, well, it's the same game they're playing. Is that they're not trying to do anything tangible for black people, and they're not talking about the things that we want. We've told them what we want. We've made it very clear. Excuse me. We made it very clear what is it that we want. We made it very very clear. And unless they're about to concede to that, then there's nothing else to talk about. You know, they want to dance around. They want to talk about you know, prison, but yet you don't want to defund the police. You want to sit up and talk about jail, but don't want to about prison reform and jail reform, but yet you don't want to talk about legislation that needs to be put out that gives severe consequences to cops and individuals that target black people, in public. You know,
Yeah.
if because you're a lawyer, right? Aren't you an
Yeah.
attorney? Yeah. So
Part
I
time.
mean, there needs to be legislation. I think that like what happened to George Floyd. If you racially profile a black person, there needs to be a felony conviction behind that, because I believe, just based off of what I read about what happened, that incident, that store clerk owner and the people that worked there, because my understanding it was the people that worked there that called the cops on George Floyd. I believe they racially profiled him is what they did, because they keep changing the story. First it was a counterfeit check. Then it was a counterfeit dollar bill, and the police department still hasn't verified that any of those things ever happened. That he ever gave them any phony
Right.
money or phony check or whatever it is. So my conclusion,
Well, even
of
if he
course,
did, it's not. Even if he did, that didn't warrant what occurred
yeah,
afterwards. You know, it's just like with Emmett Till. They're saying, well, with Emmett Till, the woman came out and said, "Well, Emmett Till never whistled at me." Well, whether he whistled at you or not, that didn't warrant you kidnapping him, shooting him point blank in the head, and gouging out his fucking eye.
exactly.
You know, and frankly, if Bill Cosby is in jail, she needs to be in jail.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree. But you get my point though. There needs to be legislation
Right.
put into place that penalize that because see what happened to George Floyd. That's happened. I'm sure to you happened to me. I mean, of course you weren't killed, but someone calling the cops on you under false pretenses,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and the people that do that, there needs to be some penalties strapped on them because I don't think that the store clerk owner and his staff, that was their intention to get George Floyd killed. But I do think, because he was a big black man, you know, and they called the cops on him. And I remember even on social media when I had conversations about people about this, they were like, they were sticking up for the store. What are you supposed to do? He gave the guy a fake bill and this and that. And I had to say, wait, hold up a second. First of all, we don't know whether or not if what he's saying is actually true. These are all allegations. We don't
Right.
know if it's true or not. He changed his story twice. It went from a check to being a phony a phony counterfeit bill. The cops to this day still have not verified what the man said. But what it does sound like to me, because I lived in South Central Los Angeles for almost 20 years, and I remember going to places like that owned by you know
Arabs,
Arabs
Arabs and
or
Koreans.
or Korean Korean grocers. I'm not saying all of them, but a good portion of them have a tendency to racially profile black men. They
Oh, it
do.
goes on all the time, and
They do.
we need to stop shopping at these places. And
Yeah.
I've heard stories about it. I remember when he first came out there because I did a video on it. He came out there and had a little black representative walking with him side by side.
Yeah.
Uh, the black guy, obviously, I think he was an officer with the food within the company. I think he was the social media representative or their media rep, whoever he was. Yeah, the bottom line, and he's talking about we'll pay for his funeral and stuff. But uh, Floyd Mayweather, I believe, ended up paying for George Floyd's funeral, and uh, you know, black people too, like that store. I'm not applauding violence, but there's no way that store should be in business right now. And by that I mean nobody should be buying anything from that place.
I agree. I agree because um, something tells me that, and Vicky Dillard actually did a brilliant video on this
Yeah,
that I was watching it, where she did an investigation where she pointed out the fact that they've called the police not just on George Floyd, but dozens of black people in that area this year alone.
yeah.
They've called the police on them. So I'm pretty sure that that this is something they routinely did, but unfortunately this time it ended up going that far where someone lost their life. And that's my point, is that there needs to be laws put on the books where if you engage in racially profiling black people specifically, black men even more specifically, there needs to be felony charges put up against you. If you're involved in with the police, if you kill someone, kill someone under false pretenses, there needs to be mandatory sentences that need to be handed out. To me, if I heard a politician talking like that, they'll get my vote if they were saying things like that. But the Democratic, but none of them are talking that way. They're not trying to change anything. In fact, Joe Biden made it very clear that he wants to increase police funding, is what he wants to do.
Well, Joe Biden is actually the worst. People say the lesser of two evils. I've had conversations with Judge Joe Brown,
Hmm.
Dr. Andy Short. He's actually the worst of the two evils because if you look at his record as a senator, this is a man that's been in office, politics for over 48 years. He was as a senator, he was mentored by Strom Thurmond and James Eastland and John Stennis, both out of Mississippi, who were the staunchest segregationists in this country.
Hmm.
James Eastland was so bad. Lyndon Johnson even said that if there was a flood in Mississippi, that Eastland would have blamed it on niggers and said they were helping out the Communist Party.
Hmm.
That's the type of person James Eastland was, and Biden worked with them.
Hmm.
And, people, and then on top of that, the other thing is how does somebody who has onset dementia, early signs
Yeah.
of dementia, because we got to think about this too. It's not just about him becoming president, it's really about Kamala Harris becoming president
Yeah.
because I can imagine he is not going to be in office much longer
Yeah.
based on health. The presidency is a very stressful job.
Yeah.
Barack Obama went in there with black hair. He came out with gray hair.
Yeah. All of them do that. All of them.
So if he's
I've noticed that. So I've noticed the
yeah,
same thing.
Biden is gray is already gray and balding now. So he goes in, he gonna come out in his dust. I don't think so. That's
Brother,
what's
he
gonna
might.
happen.
He might. He actually might. And what you said is true, man.
Natural, and I'm not. Of course, I'm not wishing it. I just want to be clear. That's not me wishing anything on him, but I'm just saying, just thinking about his health. 78 years old, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right, and I mean, here's a man that got up recently and said that crack got started in the Bahamas, and people are talking about that. You know, people sit up and say that Trump is the only one that says ridiculous things. I mean, come on.
He
He
says
said,
he said a bunch of ridiculous things. In fact, Tariq put something up this week. Hold on a second. Tariq actually put this up on his some type of video that he's got Joe Biden saying something crazy that was shared to him. Hold on, let me see if I can play it and find it. All right, y'all stick with me for 1 second. Hit that like and subscribe button. By the way, if you guys want, you can share it if you would like as well. I appreciate it if anyone would donate to the channel. It's always appreciated if you could do that. Let's see here. Oh yeah, here it is. So this is something that Trump said, and let me turn this off. All right. So I haven't heard. I heard this, but I didn't pay attention to it. But this was something.
On drugs
Let me know if y'all
was
can hear
one
it.
that
Y'all
Pat
hear it?
Moynihan, and he's a great guy. You remember the crack epidemic came from the Bahamas, and we were told by medical doctors at the time that because it permeated the membrane of the brain more quickly, it was the crack you never come back. It was somehow fundamentally different than someone in a beautiful neighborhood like this sniffing a line of cocaine would get not automatic sentence for. On drugs was one that Pat Moynihan, and he's a great guy. You remember the crack epidemic came from the Bahamas, and we were told by medical doctors at the time that because it permeated the membrane of the brain more quickly, it was the crack you never come back. It was somehow fundamentally different than someone in a beautiful neighborhood like this sniffing a line of cocaine would get not automatic sentence for. On
"Oh God, oh my God," and he's supposed to be a better candidate than Donald Trump. This guy right here. Hello.
What happened to the sound?
Oh,
Oh, there you go.
I'm sorry about that. When I played it, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So you heard it?
Yeah, I did hear that, and that's what I was referring to. When I heard that, I was like,
drugs.
I'm gonna play it one more
was one
time.
that Pat Moynihan, and he's a great guy. You remember the crack epidemic came from the Bahamas, and we were told by medical doctors at the time that because it permeated the membrane of the brain more quickly, it was the crack you never come back. It was somehow fundamentally different than someone in a beautiful neighborhood like this sniffing a line of cocaine would get not automatic sentence for on
Okay.
drugs.
So basically, he said black people doing crack was different than white people sniffing cocaine.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what he's implying.
yeah.
But we're supposed to pick that. That's our savior.
And that's and when I talk to people, they try to say that Trump is more racist than he is. I'm like, I mean, have you heard this man talk? Have you listened to the way he speaks?
Right.
I mean, when it comes to us, I mean, the Bahamas. First of all, what he's saying is not even true. But what he's saying is false. First of all, but the other part of it is the fact that the Bahamas he's really talking about black people when he talks about what people are in the Bahamas, black people. He's talking about us. So, but I'm just baffled, and like I said, when you have people out here who try to say that this guy is more competent than Trump. I'm not defending Donald Trump, but I'm just looking at the way he's talking, the way Trump is talking. I'm like,
It's like choosing between Leslie Nielsen and Lloyd Bridges for president.
pretty
Like
much.
from The Naked Gun and Hot
Yeah,
Shots.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I-
yeah, yeah, yeah. And both of them are fighting each other. While Saddam is in the room. So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah.
Absolutely, it's silly. You know, it's quite silly. But again, I mean,
It got
that's
sillier when they had Bussy Porter up there doing karaoke.
that I didn't see. I've seen some of the memes for it. I didn't watch
You
it.
want to see it?
Um, go ahead, man. You can play it. Go ahead.
All right, hold on a second.
I
Hold
haven't
on.
seen it. I haven't seen it. Well, it's Billy Porter. I know it's something interesting.
It was ridiculous, man. But somebody shared it. Hold on a second. I haven't put it up yet. In here?
They got a green screen with Black Lives Matter all in the back.
Yeah.
Why they have Black Lives Matter? But you saw a little white kid in the background. They're just all over the place,
Intersectionality.
man.
Intersectionality. Well, black. Yeah, but that was ridiculous.
Billy Porter, man. Billy Porter, he's all over the place. He
Well,
is all
they
over.
wouldn't have. Well, they would not have put him on. Yeah, indeed,
Yeah,
Picard.
it
It
was a
was a
hot
hot
mess.
mess. They would not have put him on if he was straight.
I would
Straight heterosexual black men don't get exposure like that.
well if you're a coon, you do. But see,
Well,
Billy,
yeah, like
But see,
Terry
Billy
Crews.
Porter, yeah, but see, Billy Porter, it's not. I don't think it's just that he's gay. I think part of it is the fact that he seems to have a lot of vitriol towards Black society because he's actually, talked about how homophobia is rampant in Black society. He's talked about how Black people act like white supremacists. He's actually said this. I mean, it's ridiculous what he
Right,
said,
he's stupid for that.
but that's how he talks. So they, I mean, that's why I think they like to prop him up because he has no problem, basically saying the things that a lot of these white supremacists would like to say to us, but they don't, but they won't say because they don't want to be labeled as being racist. So they get him to say it.
Someone, Tanisha Penn asked me to turn it up. Yes, honey, that's my girl. Uh, she asked
But
me to
Billy
turn it
Porter,
up. Fuck no! Don't play. Don't make me reach through this damn computer, man.
wait a minute.
Tanisha.
They got red,
She
black, and
asked,
green American flag. Is that what's playing in the back too?
yeah. So can y'all hear this better? Can you hear this better?
There's something happening here, but it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I got to beware.
The hands are all raising.
Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
He's putting his hand out.
I thought that was John Goodman for a second playing guitar.
Dropping, and Billy Porter still wearing a dress. He's wearing a dress, man.
Nobody's right, everybody's wrong.
The gay MC Hammer. Them bang ass pants. This shit, man.
So much resistance from behind.
Look at the likes to dislikes.
What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
And 6,000 people just like that. They just like that.
I'm more shocked about the 1,000 that liked it. Who the hell was that?
Those are Billy Porter's friends.
Yeah, from the bathhouse.
Apparently so.
LGBTQ, they gotta incorporate all of that. Well, I've had enough. Okay.
Billy Porter.
Yeah, well, what it is too is that Black Lives Matter. If you go look at their agenda and their platform, they clearly lay out that they are an anti-heterosexual group. So that's why I agree with the Black Lives Matter slogan. Yes, Black lives do matter, but I don't like the direction that it's going and who's running it.
Yeah.
So, and Judge Joe Brown and I talked about it. Dr. Randy Short talks about it. Shout out to those two. Shout out to Professor Ron Hurd as well. Yeah, Tanisha says that's my girl. She says yes, and it's a mess. Yes, it is. It was a mess indeed. She also said he's very white identified. You think?
Billy Porter.
White as an 80.
Because isn't Billy Porter's married to a white man, isn't he?
Yeah.
Married to a white man?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, but every time I've seen Billy Porter talk about politics, he's always wagging his finger at Black society. He has a problem with he has a problem with Black society, and they love to put it, they prop him up because he says, like I said, a lot of things a lot of white racists wish they could say, but they won't say because they don't want to be labeled as being racist.
Yeah, well, that's what a coon is for.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what sellouts are for. I mean, that's why they got Terry Crews out there, and I mean, Terry Crews basically has the same job Nick Cannon does. Although I'm not so quick to call Nick Cannon a coon or anything like that, but Terry, it's a foregone conclusion with the way he's acted. You got pissed off with D.L. Hughley for making a joke about you, and want to threaten threaten him with violence, but shit, you should have threatened that white motherfucker that put his nuts on you. Put his
Yeah,
hand and grab a handful of your
yeah,
nuts. Yeah. Yeah, like
I know.
you let a man touch your McNuggets, man. Get out of here. He did that in the longest yard. He's had that line. He was Cheeseburger Eddie. You gotta protect your McNuggets.
I mean Terry Crews, Terry Crews, his coon has been legendary. I mean, just some of the stuff he's been doing, you know. But once again, I mean, somebody who's never built anything on his own, and and he is beholden to these people, but he goes overboard with the cooning. I mean, from that to him telling black people not to become black supremacists.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? What is a black supremacist according to Terry Crews? I mean, he just I can't take him serious.
No, you
I can't take the guy serious.
can't take any of these guys serious, man.
Yeah,
Entertainers, remember that.
yeah, they're
So,
entertainers. They're entertainers, and I mean, Terry Crews has spent his entire career, with his shirt off and showing off his muscles. That's what he's made his living off of, and he went on Wall Street taking off his shirt when they were out promoting the Expendables movie. He was out there doing that.
right. I mean, he just does too much. I mean, remember his first movie role that he did, where his first breakout role was what, Friday After Next,
Yeah,
and he played a gay character,
yeah.
Damon, who got out of prison and tried to rape Cat
Cat Williams
Williams.
character.
He tried to rape Ice Cube and Mike Epps as well if they didn't pay up the rent. But he tried to rape Money Mike, and of course we know Money Mike wasn't having that and grabbed him by his nuts with them vice grips. So he has a thing about nut grabbing. It goes all the way back to his movie. So
Oh God. Oh God. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Terry Crews and some of his movies are pearls. There's some gems, definitely. I started seeing something was with Terry was kind of peculiar with him when he had the interview on TV and he said that Sylvester Stallone was could be his father is what he said in the interview, and I thought that was just strange. I was like, you're only on set with the man for only a couple of hours. I mean, you're talking about this dude
right,
could
I
be your
saw
father?
that.
Yeah, come on,
Well,
man.
well, what I thought he meant, this was just my interpretation of it, was he was saying like Sly was like he was talking about how it was important to have a boy to have a father in his life, which
Yeah,
I can agree with.
yeah,
I agree with him on that. But he had his father. My understanding, Terry still has a dad that's still around, and he was talking about how I guess Sylvester Stallone filled the, I guess was helping him out when he wanted to play that role. He made sure Terry, you know, got it, got that role, got that part in the Expendables. So that was my understanding of it. But yeah, Terry.
I thought what he's saying, he's still taking it a bit too far, man. It's one thing for somebody giving you a role, and you should be appreciative of that. But come on, dude, he ain't your
Uh,
dad. You only worked
well,
on
you
the
gotta,
set with him for a couple of hours. I mean, he's not your
yeah.
dad.
Well, I remember this too. He was sitting up there with Whoopi Goldberg, who was just as confused too.
Yeah, because Whoopi was up there, because Whoopi will tell her how it is, so, in certain regards. I mean, she's, so it's like, come on, man. I mean, that's he's not your dad.
Right. Well, Whoopi was talking. Yeah. Well, Whoopi. I mean, Whoopi's the same Whoopi Goldberg that had Ted Danson in blackface. But
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I get your point. But Whoopi, yeah, she'll say some confusing stuff from time to
yeah.
time. So, but yeah, bro. We got a lot of people that made comments. Pete Carter said a mentor, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
possibly,
Male
he could be a
figure.
mentor. You know, possibly. I mean, he could have been a mentor. No smoke for a white guy who assaulted him, but yeah, a lot to say about DL Hughley. Yeah, sis, you're right. I mean, you know, he was talking all kind of crap, wanted to break again, thinking like I said earlier, thinking like a slave. You know, we real quick to want to destroy each other for any old thing.
Right.
You
And
know,
and when you look at Terry, Terry is 50. The thing about it is, this motherfucker is older than you and I.
yeah, he's in his 50s.
He in his 50s. He grew up. Okay, he was born in I'm looking at his if you he was born, I believe, in 67, 68. So he's 53, 52. So around the time he came about, the civil rights movement was ending, but the Black Power movement was starting. Dr.
Mm-hmm.
King was assassinated around the time he was a little infant. So for him to sit up there and act like he doesn't know what racism is or what white supremacy is and talk about black supremacy, nigga, what's wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? And you big for nothing. You big for nothing. You got muscles. Like you got muscles and couldn't use them against this little scrawny little white boy that grabbed your nuts, man.
You know, like I talk to folks
And he did
about
it in
this.
front of his wife.
I talk to folks about this. You know, even I mean, you didn't have to break the guy's neck. I mean, push him to the floor, do something, slap him.
Punch him in his chest. Shit.
Yeah, punch him and do something, man. I mean, you know, I saw this clip of Will Smith, this white dude in I think it was Italy, tried to kiss him.
Yeah, they were doing.
Yeah,
Tried to
Will
kiss
Smith,
him. He slapped him.
he slapped him. He popped him on the face. I mean, do something, man. You got to put the guy in the hospital, but do something. Don't just sit there and take that. Do something, you know. And that's what folks are tripping off of. It's like you had all this smoke for DL, you know, because of what he said, but yet, you know, the white dude get a pass. You're
Right.
not trying to break his
Right.
neck. That's why I said that he's still operating like a slave. That's what a slave does.
Well, you know what it was? He didn't want to lose his opportunities in Hollywood if he did that. And there's not enough money. You know, at some point though, a job like that is great, but some things aren't worth it.
I agree.
Respect, your manhood is not worth that.
I agree. It's not
Yeah.
worth that. I mean, you know, I mean, how much money is worth your, you know, your dignity and you know, you sitting up and letting some guy molest you in front of your wife. You don't do anything about it. But I think that a lot of this disdain towards black society is because of the fact that he did that happened to him and he didn't do anything about it. And a lot of us are calling him out on it, you know, and he feels some kind of way about that.
Right. 50 Cent made fun of him too.
Yeah, 50 did. 50 made,
50
you
had
know,
that meme.
yeah.
50 had a meme up saying, I got raped in front of my wife and I got muscles or something like that.
Well, because I mean, and it's sad to see, man, but unfortunately, some of the most unwarrior minded cats that I've encountered, I've seen, you know, are not brothers who look like warriors, like Terry Crews, who played professional football. You know, you would think, you know, a guy looking like that he's an absolute warrior. You know, but when it comes to dealing with white supremacy, you know, they get real quiet. They get real, you know, meek. They're not trying to go out there and fight, you know, for anything. They'll fight us. They'll exercise, you know, their physical prowess over one of us,
Right.
not over them. And if that's your mentality, you know, like I said, you're still operating like a slave. You're basically like a plantation buck. You know, you might as well be, you know, a mandingo, you know, fighting to the death for the amusement of Calvin Candy, if that's your mentality. And unfortunately, we got, you
He's a
know,
butler.
we have some brothers out here who look like that, who that's their get down. That's their get down, unfortunately. You know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Well, anyway, well, Rashad, I will not keep you any further, brother. It was good to talk with you.
oh, you too. Pleasure.
Why don't you let everyone know, I guess, where they can follow you if you have a Twitter or Facebook page?
I have my own YouTube channel. It's Heru Heru Productions, and I'm also on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter at the same address, Hero Productions. And I'm also on. Trying to think where I'm on. I forget sometimes. My memory gets bad. So sometimes I'm on Instagram, YouTube, um, also on Facebook. You can go to my fan page on Facebook as well for Rashad Humphrey or Hero Productions or 400 Will Kill You. And there's also a um, Twitter account for 400 Will Kill You and a Instagram page as well as a Facebook page for 400 Will Kill You. So if you
Yeah,
want to go
check
ahead
it out
and
on Amazon
check
Prime.
out the movie, it's on Amazon Prime. So um, it is a film that's historic in the sense that I shot it in 2 days. Um, and like I said, it's loosely based off of the exploits of Steve Mnuchin. So it's not a biopic, but when I did the research about the mortgage crisis, his story was the one that stood out the most to me in terms of what he was being charged with, and that's who I based the main character off of. So that was part of what what turned out. But it wasn't until years later when like I said, when Kamala Harris was running for president, and I started reading more about her past that I realized who this guy was, because I remember reading about him years ago, and I remember when he was indicted, um, what he was being charged with, and the charge was so outrageous. Like for instance, there were cases I remember where he flat out wouldn't accept payment from some of the people that houses were foreclosed. They foreclosed their homes, and the people had the money to get the house out of foreclosure. And at that point, the bank has the option of either taking the money or refusing the money.
Refusing the money, taking the
Yeah,
property. Yeah.
and instead of him taking the money, he refused this just so he can get them out the house. Is what he was doing, and he did that to several people. So this guy was a straight up gangster when it came to taking a lot of people's houses, and it's interesting that Kamala Harris, when she was in a position to actually go after him, she chose not to do that at all.
Right.
After the fact that he donated a measly $2,000 to his campaign. Can you imagine $2,000? That's it. That's it. That means you and I right now can go and rob a bunch of people, and Kamala Harris will get us out of jail for 200,000. Well, maybe not her. $2,000. I'm just joking, of course. I'm just joking, but
Right. And I mean, this was one of it. I mean, and forget even that this was her record in San Francisco. Her record in San Francisco. Just that alone makes you raise questions.
yeah,
I'm not even tripping on the Willie Brown thing because that was his girl.
yeah.
You know, I'm not even tripping on that. But her record as a prosecutor is just abysmal.
It is very abysmal, and the Willie Brown thing. I said the same thing. I can't really blame Kamala for that. I mean, if I were in her shoes and my sugar daddy was trying to give me a job, where we only had to work a couple of days out the week, and I'm getting paid a six-figure income.
A six-figure income
Yeah,
as an ADA.
as an ADA. Yeah,
Yeah. Something that most ADAs, I can tell you the average income of an ADA, especially that first couple years, is about maybe around 55,000 or something like that at max. It's not a lot of, well, it's more money than what they pay the public defenders. Public defenders are underemployed as far as and underpaid as far as I'm concerned. They're also they also overwork because you can have 70 clients with each of them facing felony charges that you're responsible for each one. And
hmm
you only may make $40,000 on that, which is not a lot of money,
yeah,
especially for the work that comes in. But this was a woman who was a prosecutor that made a six-figure salary. I didn't like that. But, you know, uh, for her to be a prosecutor and then want to be vice president, a lot of people are just not feeling it. And, you
yeah,
know, we don't care about her sorority. We don't care about her, whether she graduated from Howard. Hell,
Yeah.
Rachel Dolezal graduated from Howard.
Yeah.
Hubert Humphrey, the white, who's the vice president under Lyndon Johnson, was an alpha. They let white people
Yeah.
in Black Greek organizations. So I've seen white. When I was at Southern, I saw white alpha members. I saw white omegas. That
Hmm.
don't shock me. So
Yeah.
I don't get. I don't get. I mean, that's all symbolic. I'm not knocking those organizations, but what does that have to do if you're not capable of running things? That doesn't matter anymore. You want to go have drinks? Go have drinks with your clique.
Exactly. Exactly. And that raises a very valid point, like you said about Kamala, is we're too concerned about these symbolic gestures and not actually looking at this woman's track record, and her track record is not good. Judge Joe Brown actually talked about this a while ago, and
Right,
just reading up on all of the things that, like you said, all the scandals she's been involved in as district attorney, her days with Willie Brown, attorney general. You know, it's bad. And Judge Joe Brown said something I'll never forget. He said that you should never trust a career prosecutor
right,
because of the fact, this as a lawyer, because of the fact that they have the mentality of winning at all costs. They don't care whether or not they destroy someone's life. They don't care whether or not the person's guilty or innocent. The only thing they care about basically is getting the win. That's all they care
right.
about.
And
You
let's
know?
not forget, another issue I have is she withheld evidence
Yeah.
against a man that's serving life in prison, exculpatory evidence.
Yeah.
That was one. That's one issue I have. And what it is a prosecutor, their mindset is basically to be a top cop.
Yeah.
She's actually called that America's top cop. And as a prosecutor, if you just were a prosecutor but didn't see it from the other side, let's say she was an attorney, let's say she was an ADA, but she also spent time as a public defender. I can see that because there's balance.
Yeah.
She sees it from both sides. I've worked as a public defender myself, so I can see that balance coming in. I've never prosecuted a case, but I can understand still as a defense attorney, because as a defense attorney, your job is to represent the interest and vigorously of your client from a constitutional perspective. I also understand, though, however, even as a criminal defense attorney, if I did this for the rest of my life, God, I hope not. I know, though, what it is if I ran for office, how laws are supposed to be in place too. Why we have laws, because I have had clients who I despise.
Yeah.
I despise the things that they did, what they're accused of.
Yeah.
So that has happened. But a lot of people are not. So with Kamala, a lot of people aren't sold on her because of her record, and it's understandably so. We should not just vote based off what people look like.
Yeah.
Those days are over with.
Exactly. We shouldn't do that. It's dumb. They need to supply us with some tangible benefits for
Tangibles
us,
are nothing.
exclusively for us. I always emphasize that word exclusively, not just benefits that goes to everyone, but but exclusively to for us, for our specific issues. And that's part of the reason why I've been putting some information I've been putting out about Kamala and Biden, um, and more so probably about the Democrats and Republicans, because the Democrats I think are a lot more sly and cunning about their white supremacy. Um, the Republicans, you know what you're dealing with. They don't hide the fact of who they are. You know,
Right.
you know what you're dealing with. But the Democrats have always been very sly and very cunning and about their racism, about their white supremacy. You know,
Most
and
definitely.
as we just talked about, we have a lot of Democrats running around, especially that old guard. These people were undercover Republicans. You know, so it's something to watch out for. So anyway, we
Most
can talk
definitely.
forever, man.
We could. I did want to ask you just one more thing though before
Sure.
you left. I've thought about this. I did a video on it as a director. this backlash that this Netflix movie, this trailer called Cuties. I'm
Oh
sure you
God.
I'm sure you've heard of it. I wanted to know, what did you think of it? What, because they're talking about it from the standpoint. Pop Sugar had an article where they're saying, well, you didn't complain about Good Boys, so it misrepresented what the movie was about from the poster. But you know, they're trying to say it's not promoting pedophilia or anything like that. But a picture is worth 1,000 words, and from what I
Yeah.
saw in that poster, uh, Netflix was trying to send a message with that. And I mean, they times it's stamped with their name on it. So yeah, I wanted to know what your thoughts on it were right fast.
I mean, initially when I saw it, I had a reaction a lot of people did. Like this is perverse. Why are you up here trying to sexualize little girls, particularly our girls? Little black girls. Um, but I do think there is, like we talked about, there is an agenda definitely put into play where they're trying to normalize a lot of this deviant sexual behavior to the public. You know, um, they're trying to normalize a lot of this. I mean, like that picture right
That's
there. I
the
mean, look at
picture.
that. I mean, I I blame the parents. I blame the
Yeah,
parents even more than I do the um, the company that's trafficking this filth. Because what kind of a parent are you to sit up and allow your daughter that's underage to dress like that? And
this is a
you
description.
it reminds me, like, for example, when I see these gay pride parades and I see these little kids, there's dollars being thrown at them. They're on a stripper pole, or they're up there touching, some guy's dildo that's in public. I've seen videos like that, and I look at the parents like, what are you guys thinking? I mean, why? I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking anybody because they're gay or transgender or whatever. You're an adult and that's your thing. You can do what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with that. That's your thing. You know what I mean? If that's what you're
Yeah,
into. But I do think that it's disturbing if you're trying to push this on children or you're exposing your kids to this. I think that's a big problem. I can't go along with that. I can't sit up and co-sign anything like that. I mean, if you're an adult and that's what you're into, that's your thing. You can't stop anybody from being gay or stop someone from wanting to um, change their gender, or whatever. But when you're trying to, traffic this and indoctrinate children with this kind of behavior, I think that's problematic. I can't support that, and so I applaud, people that stood up and made their voices heard and said, we're not going to tolerate this kind of filth. You need to take it off. I applaud them for that. I mean, the documentary probably shouldn't have been made in the first place. I mean, why would you want to make
well, it's not a documentary; it's a film.
it's a film, or why would you want to make a film with, whatever it is, when you got, because all these girls like 10 years old,
11, and this is a black.
11.
Yeah, this is a Senegalese French woman she's a black woman, African woman from France. Who made this, and I think she said the reason she made it was based off her experiences, and she was trying to talk about how society sexualizes children, but in her trying, I guess, to discuss that, she does the very same thing she's criticizing the Western world for.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I don't want to sound like a prude or an old ass man. I mean, because truth, because truth be told, I mean, I like sex just as much as anybody else. I like women as much as anybody else, but I do think that it needs to be presented when you're dealing with children in a responsible way. You can't just you can't sit. I don't think that pushing anything like this to the public is responsible. And I've noticed that Hollywood is pushing this hard on us specifically. They're trying to indoctrinate us into going along, with it. Whether you have these TV shows where you have, um, 'cause I've noticed where you have like a lot of black actors who are now, you know, in scenes where they're kissing, either a man or they're kissing a transgender woman, you know. And
Really cool.
I've heard stories where people even have lost their jobs because they refuse to do that. Um, you
Yeah,
know, so that's it's one thing, like I said before, if you're an adult and this is what you choose to do with your life versus you now trying to indoctrinate, the society, you know, um, into this, and particularly targeting children. Because if you're targeting the kids, you're trying to recruit them into this lifestyle. You're not trying to educate them; you're trying to recruit them into it. And
right.
that's why I see, like I said, when I see these videos where I see these young kids, taken to these gay pride parades, and you got people with dildos out, all kind of sexual toys, and the kids are up on stage, doing a strip tease, people throwing dollar bills at them, these perverts. I mean, I blame the parents. What kind of responsible parent are you to expose your child to something like that? To let them engage in something like that? They're kids, and sex should be something that I think that should be presented to them in a very responsible fashion, not in a perverse fashion like that. You know,
Yeah, most definitely.
that's my 2 cents on it.
Gotcha. Well, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you talking with me. Yeah, down
Absolutely.
with cuties, down with this fucking movie. I'm actually, I'm gonna. I've known people that actually canceled their Netflix account because of it. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
about, to, and actually, I'm thinking of doing the same thing. So, uh, it's good to talk with you, Rashad.
You too.
And you will come back. You are welcome to come back anytime.
Sure.
Guys, y'all check out that film Rashad has on Amazon Prime, 400 Will Kill You. Y'all check it out. And
Please do.
please do. Please subscribe to the channel as well. You can subscribe to the channel, Gboot2786. Also, my other YouTube channel, Gavin Rashad. And I keep mentioning this. You see the ticker at the bottom. Please donate. Donate to the channel if you want to keep seeing program like this. Keep seeing me do what I do. And also, you can check out books that I have written. One of my books, especially in time for the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, is Katrina Eyes Have Not Seen, Ears Have Not Heard. That's available on Amazon.com. I'm actually in the process of writing a second book. Won't tell everybody the details, but let's just say it's non-fictional. So that's it for me, guys. Rashad, thank you once again.
You too, brother. Thank you. It was a pleasure, and we'll talk. We'll do this again. We'll talk again. Absolutely. If you want to bring me back on the show.
I would, and I'd like to talk to you some more about some movies and screenwriting stuff. So if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So any expertise I have, I'm willing to share. So
All right. On that note, just stay. I'm going to end the broadcast, but just stay right there because I do want to ask you a quick question. But that's
okay.
it for us, guys. We are finished. We are no longer live. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'll holla. Peace.